Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and welcome to Parse Culture's kill of Mythic Grong. This boss actually took us quite a lot of attempts to kill. It took us about 32 attempts before we could actually kill this boss, so a little bit longer than we were hoping for on this one. We were hoping, as the second boss in the dungeon, it would go down a little faster. But here we are on the kill. So this boss, pretty single target. You just want to hit Grong for the most part, and then there are a couple of adds involved. So let me go through the mechanics as they happen. There was a reverberating slam. That targets a non-tank melee, and you have to move out of the slam before it explodes a couple seconds later. Then these two bots will spawn, the ape-tagonizers, and they will try to ape-tagonize the boss. Those need to be interrupted, so we have an interrupt order for each of these bots. And the boss is slowly gaining energy over the course of the fight. That energy, the rate at which the boss gains energy is going to increase as we do more damage to it, as it gets to a lower health total. And the boss also gains a ton of energy if an ad dies within 15 yards of the boss, so we try and keep the boss away from these ads. And we just kind of cleave these two ads down, kill them off, and when the ads die, they drop an Ape-Tagonizer core. And the way the Ape-Tagonizer core works is it can be used to shock Grong. And when you shock Grong, he will spend all the energy he has in increments of 25, and each of those is going to do a bunch of damage to the whole raid and stack a dot on them. You don't see that dot on me because I cloaked it. You can cloak it because it's nature damage. Both the upfront damage of the tantrum and the dot component are cloakable, so I do that. And then basically if you ever let the boss get to 100 energy, it's going to really hurt, and you need to use big, huge defensives to survive it, and you're going to have a huge dot for the next while. And so that's why we use these Ape-Tagonizer cores, and we want to discharge them on the boss roughly when he's around 50 energy. If we do it at 46 energy, it often prevents him from doing part of his tank combo, because he does this combination of attacks on the tank that can actually be interrupted by discharging the Ape-Tagonizer core at a good time. And yeah, that's the way that the tantrum mechanic works. And then as the boss gets below 70 and then 40% health, it will end up, he ends up gaining his energy faster and faster, so you have to deal with more and more tantrums over time there. You can see it does hit the boss pretty hard, or hit the raid pretty hard. Now the ranged are also dealing with this fire mechanic, that basically there are these missiles that get shot at random ranged players and leave a fire void zone on the ground. And part of the tank combo, the tank mechanic, involves them getting thrown at a random member of the raid, so that person needs to get away from the raid because it deals fall-off damage when they get there. So now we're here for the second spawn of ads. I'm using my second Vendetta and my Vanish to help kill these things off. I'm playing Shrouded Suffocation and Subterfuge here, so I can do pretty good cleave damage during my Vanish, and that's going to really help kill off these ads really quickly. It's not a huge priority to get them dead fast. You just have to keep them interrupted, so as long as you can keep them interrupted, you don't have to be like inefficient with damage or anything, but it just so happens that my Vendetta lines up pretty nicely with this second set. I wouldn't save it for very long for it, though. And then these ads, they knock you back when they die as well, so you want to position yourself so you don't get knocked into fire. That's an important thing to do as well. And then the boss also periodically, particularly after he casts Reverberating Slam, will do a roar. And if you're not close to another player when that roar goes out, you're going to get horrified, and that's a really bad thing to have happen. So you need to make sure that you move, particularly the melee, you need to move in the same direction. Particularly if you're a low melee raid like we are. We've got only 3 melee DPS and a Holy Paladin in melee doing melee DPS, so it's important for all of us to kind of dodge in the same direction, because if 3 of us go one way and 1 of us go the other way, the person who goes by themselves is going to be feared by they're going to be horrified by the roar. So now we've got the boss below 40%. You can see the energy is starting to tick up even faster on the boss, and that is, now that's kind of the enrage of this fight. But luckily we can keep discharging energy with the tantrums there, and tantrum, yeah, it does a lot of damage, but it's not as long as you're keeping it below 2 stacks, you really don't need all that much to survive it. So if you're discharging him at 50 energy, as long as he's discharged below 75 energy, he'll only do it twice. But if you let him get to 100 energy and let him get a cast off, then obviously that's a problem. At the end of the fight, you can obviously let him get almost to 100 energy and kill him without him using the tantrum, and that's a good way to avoid a bit of extra damage on the raid. You can see here, this is pretty much the first time we've ever got like this far. I think we have to kill 1 more set of ads. That's my understanding of how this fight works. Also, somebody just subscribed to my Twitch channel, so that was pretty cool as well. Yeah, so we do end up making the call to switch to these ads and kill them off and keep them interrupted. It is pretty important that you don't let them get a cast off. If they get a cast off, they'll give the boss a ton of energy, and obviously that will cause a tantrum to happen sooner, and that can wipe the raid. So we just make the decision, kill these ads off. They do spawn at intervals of every 2 minutes, pretty much. So it does line up pretty nicely with me using Vendetta and Vanish on every set. And then there you can see who's being targeted by the tank mechanic there, the tank throw. And that does a huge chunk of damage to everybody, and then there's also a Tantrum right there that also does a huge chunk of damage to everybody. And that, if you were looking at the raid frames right there, that nearly killed a lot of people, and it did kill Exhale and Eve, who are unfortunately dead. And then there you can see me get knocked back and a fire land in the same spot. I also have 3 stacks of the Tantrum debuff on me, and that debuff increases the damage you take from further tantrums, so you need to be careful to let that fall off before you let the next debuff happen. Anyways, that's how we killed Grong here, second boss of the dungeon. I'm going to be making one of these, though, for each of the bosses in the dungeon as we defeat them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.